Thank you for your
Hello, hello everyone. I'm saying hello to the Zoom people.
Hello, Zoom people.
Hello, Zoom people. Oh, no on call for you tonight. Okay. Sorry. We'll see a couple of people. We're not in our regular room tonight. Okay. Let's say that. Okay. Well, we are starting volume 11. Very exciting. It's available at the office, and I will share screen. Let me just get the right page on. Okay. So we're starting talking about things which you cannot do before tefillah. That's what we're going to be starting with today. Okay. We've spoken a lot about tefillah, and volume 11 is going to be no different in that regard. And then first thing we're going to be talking about is a question about greeting people before tefillah. There's discussion in the Gemara and Brachot. I'm just going to share screen about greeting people before tefillah, and that's what we're going to start by looking at today. Okay, so we're on page 23 in volume 11. So the Gemara in Masechet Brachot in source 1, Daf Yud Daled, says as follows: Amar Rav, says Rav, Kol hanoten shalom lechavero kodam she'itpalel ki'ilu asa'o bama. Anyone who says hello to their fellow before davening, it's as if they've built a bama, right? Like a platform for avodah zarah. Shneimar, as it says, quoting from Yeshayahu, "Chilu lachem min ha'adam asher nishama ba'apo ki vameh nechshavhu." Vameh is in through what is he considered? Says the Gemara, Al tikrei bameh ela bama. Right? So it's a drasha on the word bama. That by greeting somebody else, greeting another person, is as if it's like idolatry in some sense. Why? Because you're giving more attention to someone else prior to speaking before God. Ushmuel Amar, and Shmuel says, so what does it mean? Sorry, 1 second. Somebody needs to. 1 second. Okay. So Shmuel says, what does it mean? Well, you don't need to rephrase it from bameh to bama, but even as bameh makes sense. That why is it that you gave this person so much importance, chashivut, rather than to Hashem? Okay. Mate, so you're not allowed to greet someone else before davening. Okay. We'll see what that means. Exactly the parameters in the continuation of the ship. Mate of Rav Shesha's challenges. This is based on the first Mishnah. The Mishnah on Daf Yud Gimel says, "But prakim shoel mipnei kavod u'meishib." There's machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir in Mishnah and Brachot Daf Yud Gimel about certain points of davening that you are allowed to interrupt. Right? You are allowed to interrupt to greet your fellow. In which case, how do we reconcile this with what we've just read, that it's usher to greet somebody prior to davening? So answers the Gemara, Tir Gemara, Rabbi Abar, the mashkim lefitcho. That no, when is it that it's usher to greet somebody before davening? It's when you get up early and you go lefitcho, to his petach, to his entrance, i.e. you go to their house to greet them. If you actively go to greet somebody, that's usher prior to tefillah, which is different than if you happened upon somebody who came up and said hello to you, you happened upon somebody in the way. So the question is, what exactly are the parameters of mashkim lepitcho, waking up early and going to meet somebody? Is that like the yad?
Yes, it's
Pretzel is the yad? Okay. Okay. So
what if you want to pick somebody up to take
sorry.
them to shul?
What if you want to pick somebody up to take them to shul? So is that mashkim lepitcho? Interesting. Possibly. Well, the question is, what is it that's forbidden? Right? What was the opening words of the Gemara? How did it open? I have to scroll up. Kol hanotein shalom. So whoever gives greet, right? We translate it, says hello, right? But what does this mean? Hanotein shalom lechaveiro. Those parameters is also something that we're going to discuss now in this shiur. What is mashkim lepitcho? And also, 1 second. Okay. What is mashkim lepitcho? And more importantly, what is what is noten shalom? What does it mean to greet somebody that is prohibited? So, like everything, machlokas. Okay, you're well trained. It's not your first year.
No.
Okay, all right. So let's see inside of the page. The first, the Rashba here in source 2 quotes the Raavad or the Ra'avad, depends who you ask and who's reading. Who says as follows: that literally noten shalom is the issue. That to say hello, but to say a different version would be okay, rather than hello. Let's see how he says it in source 2. Katava Raavad Zal, Dahainu shenagu loma baboker. They'd say in the morning, Safra demari tav. Good morning, Mister. Right? Kadesha yiten lev shu asur hitaked b'dvarim acherim klal achit palel. So that you would remember by changing the style of the greeting, instead of saying shalom, but saying this instead, that it's prohibited to remind you that basically it's like a shinoi, right? Reminds you that you've still got to daven, and you're not supposed to be busying yourself with talking too much before davening. Otherwise, God forbid, people start to greet each other and then they spend the whole Shabbos morning in the foyer, right? And don't make it into shul, right? That's exactly what he meant. But by doing a shinoi in the language that you use, you'll remember that that you haven't davened yet. Okay, and therefore the Raavad says simply just to do a shinoi basically in the greeting. To say Tzafra Damari Tav, which is Boker Tov Adoni, right? In Aramaic, would instead of saying Shalom, like a change in the greeting. The Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah brings two opinions there in the next source. He first quotes the Chachmei Provence, right? The Provincia, as they're known, the Rabbanim of Provence, and then it quotes himself. How does Rabbeinu Yonah quote himself? Because Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah wasn't written by Rabbeinu Yonah, it was written, as the name says, by his Talmidim. It was their sikumim, right? Their summaries of his shurim. So when Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah writes Mori Harav, it means Rabbeinu Yonah. So the Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah first quote the Chachmei Provence, and then they quote Rabbeinu Yonah as two other opinions as to exactly what is prohibited in greeting before davening. So let's see in source 3, Talmid Rabbeinu Yonah. So first he brings the Chachmei Provence. Amru Chachmei Provenza. So say the Chachmei Provence. The afilu b'mashkim lefitcho eino asur ela kshemaskir lo shalom. Say the sages of Provence, it's dafka when you say shalom. What's special about shalom? Mishum sheshmo shakadosh baruch hu shalom. Fascinating. They say, what's the issue of saying shalom? That's Hashem's name. And you're using Hashem's name before you daven to Hashem. Aval mutar lama lomar lo tzafra demara etav, but you can say in Aramaic, good morning, kivan she'enu mazkir lo shalom, because you're not mentioning shalom. It's fascinating that essentially what's happened is that it is prohibited to greet prior to davening with the name of Hashem. To use the name of Hashem if you've actually spoken to Hashem is improper. But that's the reason that they give. So what does that mean about a regular greeting, which isn't like in a different language, like hello? If hello is or good morning is your regular greeting, it would seemingly not apply according to Chachmei Provence. So whereas the Ravid has said in the first source you've got to do a shinoi for your regular greeting, Chachmei Provence have said the issue is invoking the name of Hashem before davening.
Is that the greeting or the response?
It seems the greeting, because that's what the Gemara was talking about.
That means you've got Hashem forefront in your thinking already. So
Right, you've got Hashem.
if you're saying shalom.
Right. It would seem that the issue is, unlike the Ravid in the previous source, it said the issue was that you're going to forget about davening, right? And suddenly you realize they're already in Musaf, right? Shabbos morning. But happens to the best of us, not me, but usually anyway. But this is that's not the concern. The concern isn't that you're forgetting about Hashem. The concern is that it's almost like an affront to Hashem. That before you even bother to greet Hashem, you're using his name to greet other people. That's how the Chachmei Provence say. There's another opinion that of Rabbeinu Yonah himself, the second paragraph in source 3. It would seem, according to my Rav, i.e. the Rabbeinu Yonah, he's even more machmir. But even that's not permitted. But even to use an alternative greeting, which isn't the name of Hashem, that's also not allowed, unless, what does he say? And when you really have to go and attend to some business, or for any other purpose. So what does he say? You guys hear me? What does he say? He says that even if but if he's not going for some pressing need, basically, then you can't even in any language greet somebody before tefillah. Okay, and therefore it's permitted to greet somebody with a shinoi, but what? But only in cases. But if you're going specifically to greet somebody, that's not allowed. So if you deliberately went to greet somebody, that would be an issue. If you happen to be doing something else and you meet somebody on the way, then that's allowed with another language. But even in another language, one wouldn't be able to greet somebody else. So, square. Thank you. Okay.
So, Rabbi, do you mean another language besides our mother tongue, or another language besides Hebrew? Like what do you mean?
It means besides. It was seen based on not even Lashon HaKodesh. It means besides Lashon HaKodesh, because this understanding is that the prohibition is based on the name Shalom, because Shalom is one of the names of God. It's not a din in the mother language or mother tongue. It's a din in the name Shalom, which is specific to Hebrew. Okay. So, but they seem to both go on. They seem to agree ultimately that the issue is with what? The issue is with evoking the name of Hashem. Okay, but the parameters are slightly different. The Beit Yosef brings a totally different parish. In source 4, that of the Ben Yerucham. Ben Yerucham says that when the Gemara had spoken about the prohibition of Netinat Shalom, we mistranslated that. We assumed Netinat Shalom means to greet somebody by speaking. He doesn't understand that at all. He understood how do you greet somebody? Not by greeting, but by nodding your head towards them or bowing towards them. It's a very unique position. But this is what he says in source 4. Bet Yosef. Katav Rabbeinu Yerucham. Perush shalom kmo kri'ah. Like bowing forward, right? It's like the namaste, right? Aval shalom b'peh mutar. But to verbally say shalom, that was never an issue, says Rabbeinu Yerucham. Kamod safra demari tavachayotza, but any good morning greeting is good. Va'afilu kriya eno asura ele b'mashkim lo fitcho. And when the Gemara qualified the Isser and said it's only when you go to somebody's house. Aval im pagabo b'shum makom or b'beit hakneset mutar. But if you bump into somebody or in shul, then it's permitted to do this greeting. So he understood that the greeting refers to bowing to somebody, I guess like a polite bowing. But there was no Isser of greeting somebody verbally. It's an interesting, unique take on things. Do you want to move now that room's clear? Do you want to move in there, or are you good in here? Good here? Okay. So,
Traffic to get.
sorry. Okay. See how much traffic we get. Okay.
Just
So what were you going to ask? Yes.
Just on that point that you said that
I like this table.
it's whether or not you could actually, if you were learning beforehand, so before davening, could you learn before davening
No,
with somebody?
we haven't spoken about learning before davening, but we'll get there. Okay. We're talking here about specifically what was mentioned in the Gemara, and this is the beginning of the second paragraph of Bracha, which is that greeting. But so we've seen different shitot. One was the concern about forgetting to daven, getting distracted. You look down at your watch, and time has run away again. The second one was the issue. It was always like an affront to Hashem to use Shem Hashem to greet others. But even then, the Rabbeinu Yonah said that even if you don't use Shem Hashem, let's say you use, hello, how are you, or good morning to you, or top of the morning, or whatever other greeting, depending where you're from, if you specifically went to seek the person out, that's also inappropriate before tefillah. And then we have this Rabbeinu Yerucham who narrows the whole thing and says the Isser was only regarding like this kriya, but not actually a verbal hello, which is fascinating. Shulchan Aruch brings all of these things though. La halacha. Let's have a look at source 5. As Shulchan Aruch brings this in Orach Chaim Peitet, in source 5. And then we're going to have to rely on the klalim of the Shulchan Aruch in order to work out how exactly he's paskening. Kivan says Shulchan Aruch in source 5. Kivan shehegias man tefillah, once time of tefillah has arrived, asur la'adam lahatim lepetach havero liten lo shalom. It's prohibited to go early to somebody's door to say hello to them, to greet them. Mishum dishmo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu shalom. Aval mutzar lomar lo tzarfa demari tav. So firstly, past is like in Rabbeinu Yerucham, okay? And he goes further. That's only allowed when you're anyway going for something else. But if you went solely to greet somebody, and even to use a different language other than shalom is also prohibited. And similarly, prohibited to bow to them when you go to meet them. But and those that say kriya asura afilu below mashkim lefitcho, some prohibit kriya anyway. Okay, but fundamentally, he's brought here the opinion of Rabbeinu Yerucham, basically. Of Rabbeinu Yonah, right? He's brought here the opinion of Rabbeinu Yonah here. The prohibition is specifically regarding shalom, and even saying the word shalom, and even if you're not saying the word shalom, you're using a different phrase or different language. If the sole purpose is to go to greet somebody, you're not allowed to go solely to greet somebody. If you're driving to shul and you bump them on the way, that's fine. But if you go specifically to somebody to greet them, that is prohibited even in another language, it would seem. Okay.
So here's a question. I was thinking of something you learned earlier. If your Rav has returned from travel somewhere.
Oh, where has he been? We've been waiting a year.
Yeah, he's still traveling. He's been in suitcases. And you go to the airport to pick him up for davening, and you greet him. And he's your principal rabbi. So therefore, you have the respect you have to give to your Rav.
I'm not used to having rabbis. So.
They say this is the trouble. They covered a Rav, which is a high mitzvah. How does that then? Because you're going to pick your rabbi up.
So if he landed on the 5:30 flight from Emirates, then it's probably it might be before his month to fill anyway, and then you might be okay depending on the time. Dafka now time's getting earlier again.
Yeah, by the time
we've got issue. The time he gets through custom depends if it's his passport.
Yeah.
So, but interesting question. It would seem though that it's based on what we've seen that you're not going to be noten lo shalom. You're going to drive him home or whatever it
Well, it's
is.
not gonna rub, but you're still gonna greet him.
But what we're saying that shalom is prohibited prior to davening, and anything which is not shalom, you're allowed to do, but you're not allowed to exclusively, specifically go to greet somebody. So I know they call it the meet and greet, right? But you should decide if that's what you're really doing, or you're also being a taxi driver. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
You know, so okay. Please God, that situation should be lema'aseh from hair of your men that you're going to pick up the rabbi from the airport. Okay. Amen. Okay. Sorry.
As opposed to driving them out to the airport.
As opposed to driving them back to the airport. All right. All right. But that was paragraph 1. God, you've got to keep humorous about these things, right? Okay. Danny's not here, right? Okay. Okay. All right. Ve'im hitchil. Okay. Ve'im hitchil levarech habrachot. What if you already started brachos? Ein lachush kol kach. Fascinating. As long as you started saying Birchos HaShachar, then it would seem that there's less of a concern in greeting people. Interesting, right? It's not. We're talking about somebody who hasn't really started davening at all. Goes on. And if you're not going specifically to somebody's door, you just bumped into them on the way, right outside on Balaclava, whatever it is. Mutar liten lo shalom. Then you're allowed to say hello if you bump into somebody on the street. The Yesha, remember those that say, he brings the Yesha Omrim that we saw, i.e. the Ravid in source 2, that even if you bump into somebody, you shouldn't say shalom, you should just say an alternative lashon. Why? Because it's got to be a shin way that you don't forget to feel. So that you should remember that you're not allowed to govern, you're not allowed to greet and not to do other things prior to tefillah. Okay. What's the halacha though? Usually stam v'yesh omrim, halacha kastam. And therefore it would seem that we don't rule like this yesh omrim, we rule like the first opinion. Namely that it's shalom specifically which is prohibited. And also if you're going specifically to see somebody and greet them. But if you're not going dafka to greet them, but you're doing something else and you see them on the way as well, then you can say you can say an alternative greeting. Okay. And hello, it would seem might be okay. But let's see how the Mishnah Berurah deals with this. This is all 6. So it was reminding you of, yes?
An Israeli shliach that was here for a long time who would always correct you when you're saying good Shabbos and saying Shabbat Shalom. And he spoke better Yiddish than most of us anyway. But Shabbat Shalom, but not good Shabbos. Good Shabbos will get you out of this problem. Oh, it's not, yeah, there's no Shalom.
According to the Stam, good Shabbos would get you out of it.
Yeah.
But according to the Yeshomrim, it wouldn't. But it would seem Stam Yeshomrim halacha Stam. It would seem. So we'll see. But okay, let's see how the Mishnah Berurah qualifies things in source 6. Okay, it says the Mishnah Berurah there. Lahakdin, right? That you're not allowed to go and greet somebody. V'hu adin, it's not only to go to somebody's house. He says, V'hu adin im holech b'beit ha-knesset memakom hakavua lo, right? Memakom chaveiro l'tein lo shalom. This we never do, right? People walking around the shul. Never happens, right? To go to one, like Ronnie's shaking his head. And so going from one seat to another. So that also is the equivalent of mashkim lepitcho. So if you're sitting in your seat and you go, oh, I haven't seen Joe Bloggs in a long time, before Shacharit, you shouldn't be schlepping all the way to.
At home, before you come in, you probably on Shabbos you've probably done Shema at home.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So you're not starting your davening. You've started your davening with Hashem. Now you come into shul. Can you greet everybody before you start praying?
So we saw that at the end there, he said, once you started brachos, ein lachush kol kach. There's less of a concern. Birchos HaShachar, it would seem.
Yeah.
That's what it would seem. Dishma, over the page. Dishma. Am I on the right page?
Yeah.
1 second, I missed it. Okay. Okay, I'm not going to read that comment out. Never mind. Okay. All right. I thought it was a question. Never mind. Shut up, Peter. Okay. Let's say that. All right. Wait, where am I? I lost it. I keep jumping.
11.
You think I beat? Yeah.
You know.
No, I mean, I'm in source. Yeah. 1 second. computer is going on strike.
Six.
There we go. Yeah, install 6. Yeah, no, I jumped ahead. Install 6. Okay, sorry about this, everyone. One sec. Okay. Here we go. Okay, yeah. Yud Aleph, top of page 26. Dishma, as the Mishnah Berurah, ve'ein ra'oi lahaz. What is the issue with saying shalom? Ve'ein ra'oi lahazkir shmo al ha'adam u'lechabdo kodem shemechabel hakadosh baruch hu. Right, as we said, shouldn't be using God's name to greet others before you've even spoken to God. In another language, it remains to be seen. Now that's a bit of a shocker, that question about Lashon La'az. Because I could argue that Lashon La'az is, what's the issue? It's not Shem Hashem. If we're fundamentally pascaling like Rabbeinu Yonah, right? What's the issue? Hello is not the name of God. Then Lion Richie song that's about, an Adele, but it's not Shem Hashem. So the question is, why is that Rabbeinu Yonah, that the Mishnah Berurah here says V'shon La'az yesh la'ayin? It's not so clear. Not so clear, unless he's deferring to one of the other opinions. Either way, he says, and Mistabra, it's logical. The im omer, if he doesn't say shalom but says a different thing, he says a nice Fardi bracha. He says harahum yirachamecha or hanun yachanecha, right? V'chadomer, right? That the merciful one should have mercy on you, or the graceful one should have grace on you, and the like. Shari, that's okay. The mavarcho b'shmo shel hakadosh baruch hu. Then you're giving that person a bracha through Hashem's name. You're not really greeting them and putting them before God. You're actually saying that God should bless them, and that would be allowed. So that's a different way of okay.
So therefore, if you said Shalom Alecha, that would also be okay, because you're not greeting him, you're putting God's name on.
Well, that's interesting, because
And why, and Alecha, not Alechem, because unless you are speaking to more than one person. Sorry, go on.
that's the question though. Is Shalom, because Shalom Aleichem is the typical greeting, right? But then look at your Mr. Wien HaKohen here, Dr. Wien HaKohen is pointing out, what is the last bracha of the Birkus Kohanim? Yesem Lacha Shalom.
Shalom, yeah.
So what? So, but then it's not that you're saying shalom. It's not that you're invoking God's name. It's that you're giving a bracha that God should put His shalom on the person.
You agree that
Shalom alecha or shalom alecha, right, is an interesting one. I'm not so sure I'm not sure about it. I hear what you're saying. It would seem, according to what the Mishnah Berurah said, it's not, but it sounds like it's not a tefillah, more of a greeting. Either way, Yalkut Yosef also says that the halacha is like the stam, and that the issue is primarily an issue of the word shalom, but not other greetings, because like Rabbeinu Yonah, right? In Source 7, says Yalkut Yosef, Kivan Shekiyam Shachar, once dawn is arrived, Adam Shiamtin Liten Lo Shalom, you can't go to somebody's house and greet them prior to tefillah. But Afilu Aviv or Rabba. Answer your question, Michael? Right? Even if he's a father or the rabbi. Aval mutar lomar lo tzafar demaritav. But you can say it with this different language, good morning in Aramaic. But afilu zeh ena mutar hutzrach lelechet laesek masakav or l'shum inyan. That's only permitted when he's got to go there for other reasons, but not specifically to greet the person. He's going there because he has another purpose. But agav zeh nichnas etzlo shalom, and on the way he also said hello, because he's passing him or meeting him for another reason. But if you're going there specifically to greet them before tefillah, even if the lashon abba in the word shalom is prohibited. If you bump into them on the way, we said you can't say shalom. Better to say good morning, not shalom. Primarily, the Shulchan Aruch, the Mishnah Berurah, the Yalkut Yosef in their wake have ruled, like Rabbeinu Yonah, that the issue is really with shalom more than anything else. Having said this, one should not be going specifically out of their way to greet somebody prior to davening, even with an alternative word other than shalom. Here, look at Mordechai Eliyahu, the man of Mordechai here in source 8. He also acts the following. He says, Yesh omrim, for those that say, even if you bump into them in the street, as we saw, don't say the word shalom, say good morning instead. Or what if you always say good morning because you're a polite Englishman? Then you should change to safratava. Or if you usually say good morning in English, then change to boker tov, or whatever it is, like. So ironically, Ramon Chaliao is Choshesh in the end for the opinion of the Rivet, the Yesh Omrim. Again, Rav Ovadia, of course, he's not, doesn't bother him. I'll get Yosef, so Stam Yesh Omrim Halacha Kastam. We have clear rules. So Maman Mordechai says, let's be Choshesh for the Rivet. Okay. What about other greetings? So Shabbat Shalom, you mentioned, okay? Let's see how Shabbat Shalom would fall into this, or Gid Shabbos. Let's look at Piskei Teshuvos. Okay, he summarizes some contemporary greetings for us. Let's have a look. V'hu at source 9. V'hu din, the same is true. Sha'ar brachot, any blessings or wishes. There's no issue for good morning or any other thing when you greet somebody before tefillah. Or kagam birkas mazal tov or mazel tov. But even handshaking is not an issue. Okay, very good at this at Mizrahi. When you see a new face, make sure you shake out your hand and you say welcome, and don't say it's because I'm being from. It's mutter, says the Piskei Teshuvot. Okay, even in davening, not in certain bits of davening, but even prior to davening, it's mutter to welcome people. Bruchim habaim is not an issue. Achlo shalom aleichem. No, don't use the word shalom aleichem. So Peter, he disagrees with you. V'chen is similarly, fine. So he says shalom aleichem is no good because you've not made it that. May it be that God places His shalom on you. But you said shalom aleichem, that God should be on you, basically. V'chen, that's no good. But things which are good, also good, are Shabbat Tava, Yom Tov Tava, i.e., good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom v'chadomer. Harehem bichlal bracha shemutar la'omer b'nei tefillah. So Shabbat Shalom you can say before tefillah. Okay. Omnam daron matana asur latet kodem tefillah shu bichlal sheilas shalom. To give a present is an issue of sheilat shalom, and that would be a problem to do before tefillah. By the way, where else do we see this? Giving a gift is a issue of sheilat shalom. Hilchos Avelis. One of the reasons that we don't give an aval a present is because it's considered sheilat shalom, sheilas shalom, right? As greeting, it's like the dugma mubheket. It's the ultimate sign of greeting somebody is not just in words but in actions, right? And the actions speak louder than the words. That's why to Avelim we don't give matanot, because that is a kiyum of sheilas shalom, which is a problem to when it comes to Avelot. Okay. All right.
Rav Johnny,
Yeah.
I just have interest. I see Rav Betzalel Stern's name mentioned there, just below in the orange.
So,
he was the Rav of Adas,
yes.
Melbourne.
Yeah, he wrote the, I believe, right?
He was the Rav of Adas Israel. A few rabbis.
Yeah, no, I'm saying he wrote the B'Tzela Chochma as well.
Yeah, right.
So he Rav Stern, Rav Betzalel Stern. He was Rav of the Adas. He's the one we remember. I quoted him when we did in the Lunch and Learn, and we discussed V'tein Talmud Matar. That he said, ignore all these Englishmen who wanted to change things and or do or don't, and he said it's okay. And whatever he says, stick like the Northern Hemisphere, and it's okay.
Can I just ask also, Shabbat Shalom? I didn't quite hear. I mean, Jeff raised it earlier on. Is that you saying that we shouldn't be saying Shabbat Shalom?
No, that's okay. Jeff suggests the Piskei Teshuvos says even according to the Machmirim, Shabbat Shalom is okay.
Not on Mondays.
Sorry?
Not on Mondays.
And definitely not on Sundays because of Chukas Hagoy. How's that?
How's that? Very good. Okay.
Sound like a good chumrah? Unless, of course, you're going over into, the east, and you're in Sydney and you're going to the sea on a Sunday, in which case you can say Shabbat Shalom.
It gets
after dark.
Our previous Marad Atra used to walk around shul on Shabbos morning prior to davening to those people who were there at the right time and wish them a Shabbat Shalom. And greet each one, walk around the shul. There weren't that many in shul at the right time, but it's he did that for those few.
Current Marad Atra also is, we just can't see him. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but that Shabbat Shalom is not the issue. Shalom Aleichem is the issue.
Okay.
Again, because Shabbat Shalom is like saying good morning. It's a greeting. It's not a She'elat Shalom. The issue is the She'elas Shalom, asking after something, how are you? And Shalom Aleichem is a well-wishing rather than a greeting. That's the chiluk that the Piskei Tshuva is making here. When you say Shalom, it's either invoking the name of Hashem, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, which is an affront to God, because you invoke God's name before you've even spoken to God that morning, or it's an issue of distraction, according to the Ravid, but we don't really rule like the Ravid. It's a Yeshon.
Where do we learn
Whereas
that?
Shabbat Shalom is like saying good morning, or top of the morning, as they say in Ireland. Yes.
Where do we learn that Shalom is the name of Hashem?
Sorry.
From where do we learn that Shalom is one of the names of
We
Hashem?
learn it in a few places. In the British Shalom, the Brit of Shalom.
Okay,
Dafka
so-
there. And what did Chazal learn from there? That the Vav in the Sefer Torah in Shalom is a few places. Okay. That's okay. We say that. Okay.
We can also learn from that there are a lot of things that you have to do from Darchei Shalom, and it's as people say, we do this from Darchei Shalom because not to upset people. But no, we're not doing it Darchei Shalom not to upset people. We're doing it because that's the ways of God.
Right. It's true. I mean, there are lots of things we do for Darchei Shalom. Even the Shem Hashem is Nimchak for Darchei Shalom, right? That in the Mikdash, the whole parsha of Sota, right? Hashem says that my name should be wiped out in the water for Shalom Bais, right? It's the whole for another time for Parshat Naso. Okay, next year. Okay, source 10, the Mishnah Berurah. Oh, they bring here the Hotzas Dirshu. Okay. Why Mishnah? This is the blue Dirshu Mishnah Berurah set. It's great. It has all the extra footnotes and adds a contemporary postskim onto the Mishnah Berurah.
This was the new version.
The blue Mishnah
Yeah.
Berurah. It's like have every page. It has
English
the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah.
English and Hebrew one.
No, it's not in English,
Oh, there's a
unless they've done it in English.
new version come out with English.
Oh, yeah? But it's great because they bring, so you have the Shulchan Aruch. It's only on Aruch Chaim, because Mishnah Berurah is obviously only on Aruch Chaim, but it has the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah, and then it has it's called Ma'adurat Dirshu. It's great. I have to get a version, but I have to find a way to get it across cheaply. But the idea is they also add contemporary postskim on all the sites, so they have footnotes and things. So look here. He says here, quoting the Rebbe Tzal Stern in source 10. This is not the Mishnah Berurah. This is the Dirshu annotations in the Dirshu version of the Mishnah Berurah in source 10. V'lomar shalom b'telefon. So this is what Rebbe Stern spoke about. Can you say shalom on the phone? Okay, because we said you can't be mashkim lepetach haveiro. You can't go to somebody's house. What about calling them up? Where does that? Is that like bumping into them, or is that like going there? Because you haven't made, on one hand, you haven't made the effort. On the other hand, you have gone there, right? You have dialed the number. So he brings here a sefer, right? This is Rav Lahagrab Stern, right? Rav Tzal Stern. Katav, he wrote, She'ein dino kamashkim petach havero. That's okay. And it's not considered like mashkim going to somebody to greet them. Lachen hekel talfen lechavero or lekrovo sheyotzeh lederech od kodem shesiyem et tefillah. And therefore, he allowed people phoning somebody who's going on a trip even before the end of davening. To give them the bracha, lech l'shalom, go in peace, right? Nisiya tova, right? Or especially with the word shalom, it's not the name of Hashem. And therefore, the rule that over the phone is not an issue. It's not mashkin u'sapera in the same manner, and therefore be permitted even prior to the end of davening. Okay. Sorry, my computer is being a bit slow today. I don't know why. Okay. They bring, sorry?
Change of rooms.
Change of rooms. It doesn't know where we are. Okay. The Pliny Halacha brings Rav Melamed, who's cholek, and says that he thinks that on a phone is also an issue. Let's see, it's also level. Hit kasher v'telefon, says Rav Melamed in the Pliny Halacha. נראה לפי עניות דעתי, in my humble opinion, it would seem, שבשעת הצורך, that at a time of need, it's like somebody going by their friend's house. You can go in. He says that it's still like going past somebody's house that you can say good morning because you're not going specifically to greet the person, but you shouldn't say shalom, which is the name of Hashem. Okay. Because he basically says the phoning is like going past somebody's house. again, we rule that as long as you're not going exclusively for that reason, you can say it, but you shouldn't say shalom. But still, he says, "V'tov sheyama lifnechem et birchot hashachar." So you still say birchot hashachar first, if possible. V'im ein tzarich l'daber lifnei tefillah. But if it's not necessary to speak to that person before davening, there's no actual need, then asur. Right? As we saw, that if you do it specifically, that's asur. And he says the same thing's true with the phone. If you phone somebody specifically before tefillah to see how they are, that is the definition of mashkim lepitcho. And unlike Rav Stern, he didn't think that saying it over the phone means it's any different. Okay, we live in a world of technology, but that doesn't mean that it's not equivalent to mashkim lepetach chavera. And therefore, he said calling somebody explicitly you couldn't do for any greeting prior to tefillah, in contrast to Rav Stern. Okay. Okay. What if somebody who's already davened, you're coming out going into the 7:30 minyan, and people are coming out the 6:30 minyan or whatever it is, and somebody says to you, "Hello, how are you?" or "Shalom." Are you allowed to respond back? You didn't initiate, but are you allowed to respond? So the Mr. Brewer discusses this in source 12. Kadeshi 10 explains that Mr. Brewer, everything we've discussed until now, that was only under certain circumstances. That was all if you're the one who initiates to say shalom. But when somebody inquires after you, you're allowed to respond, "I'm good, I'm well." And all the more so somebody who davened early, is already davened, is allowed to go to the house of somebody else who has not yet davened, even though he will need to respond in kind, right? Respond to him. And therefore, you're allowed to respond to somebody else after your wealth. Okay? One sec. Still not working. Why is this not working? Sorry, my computer is being a bit slow today. Okay. Let's say that's the Mr. Brewer's take on things. Okay, and that summarizes a little bit of greetings. I have a nice little chart here, if you see. So fundamentally, we saw the Gemara discusses it, and then there's a chiluk in the Gemara between meeting somebody versus bumping into somebody versus going out their way to find someone. 3 shittas in the Rishonim. The Ravid who said that the issue is that you've got to make a shinoi on your language, and therefore to answer Darren's question from earlier, you've got to change what you usually do, regardless of whatever language you speak. Then we had the Talmid Rabbeinu Yonah who said the issue is shalom, specifically because it's the name of Hashem. But there's another issue, which is if you go explicitly to greet somebody, okay, before davening, but no other purpose, you're solely to greet them. That's also an issue, even in any language. And Rabbeinu Yerucham said it was bowing. Shulchan Aruch ruled stam like Rabbeinu Yonah and brings the Ravid as a Yesh Omrim, and therefore, strictly speaking, the halacha follows the Talmid Rabbeinu Yonah. The Mishnah Berurah had said that walking over to somebody's seat in shul is also like going specifically to visit them, and is forbidden, right? Unless you're going to them for some other reason, then you can use a word other than shalom. And not clear about other languages, though. And then finally, we saw the machloket regarding over the phone. If you're calling somebody specifically, that might also be an issue. Okay, that was about greeting other people. And we saw an array of shitot in the Rishonim as to whether it's because of God's name, because you're worried about tefillah, what exactly the issue is. What about just attending to general things before tefillah, just attending to affairs before tefillah? So the Gemara, again, in Brachot, discusses attending to one's own private needs, and we're now on page 30, prior to davening. The Gemara has what to say about this. My mouse is... There we go. Okay. Source 13, the Gemara also on your Dalad in Brachot. Amar Rav Idi bar Avin, Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Ish Ashian. You shouldn't be attending to your own affairs and matters before davening. Shneimar, as it says, Sedek lefanav yahalech, right? Yasem lederech pe'amav. Okay? Meaning what? That it means it's referring to somebody who first goes lefanav yahalech, right? And then lederech pe'amav. Meaning tzedek, i.e., that of God, referring to God, before going lederech pe'amav, before setting out on one's own journey, one's own footsteps. Okay. Okay, that's the Rosh the Gemara. That's not possible. I'm trying to zoom down, but my computer is really being fun today. Yes, I have to do some antivirus software. Okay. No, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to go. There we go. Okay. Okay, so Shulchan Aruch paskins this Gemara, la halacha, in source 14. Says the Shulchan Aruch, asur lo להתעסק בצרכיו או ללכת דרך עד שיתפלל תפילת י"ח. Now, what's fascinating is that whereas in the previous case of greeting somebody, we said the issue was Birkat HaShachar. Here, it's not the Birkat HaShachar, it's not enough. It doesn't suffice. It needs to be Tfilat Yud Chet. It's got to be the Amida until you can't do anything else until you basically really davened. And that's what the Shulchan Aruch rules here in source 14. Okay. Fine. And therefore, this would apply from the minute that you're obligated in Shacharit, which we saw, but you can't have dinners from Alot Shachar, right? From dawn. We obviously don't do it really until after Mishayakir, but from dawn this would apply. And the Rambam therefore says, prior to that time, it is mutter to do things. Right? You get up really early, and it's okay. It says the Rambam source 15. It's mutter obviously to cut one's hair, to go for a bath before Shacharit, i.e. before the time of Shacharit. Shahu Davar Matsoi. He's talking about Mincha, but that's only close to Mincha that you can't do these things. Sharova Amnicha Sim Sham Bayom. Ava Bashachar Davar She'eno Matsoi Lo Gazrupa. So when it comes to Shacharit, prior to this man of Tefillah of Shacharit, it's mutter to do things. Mincha, he said, it's more complicated because Mincha, there's this whole question about half an hour before Mincha, because it's middle of the day and people tend to be doing things anyway. There's no such gezerah prior to Shacharit, and therefore before dawn, there's no issue. And this is also codified in the Shulchan Aruch, which I'm trying to get to. Yes, so yeah. I'll turn them around so they can hear you. Yep. On the point of going up before Mincha versus Shacharit, going up early.
So I'm just wondering whether is that really concerned? I mean, how real is that situation though, and how real are these cases are trying to disprove
that you can't do things before tefillah?
Yeah, I mean,
well,
you get up in the morning, you're saying what is that considered as part of?
So for this, no, that's not good enough. For this, the Shulchan Aruch rule tefillat Yud Chet said Shmona Esrei. Unlike Sheilas Shalom, which we said was you got at least have done Birkas Shachar. Yeah. Here, it's you've got to have done tefillah properly, tefillah proper. Right? In Tachlan, you can talk, right? In Tachlan, you can be Oster v'chafat stuff, right? But, sorry. Right, but yeah. Okay. Shulchan Aruch ruled like the Rambam source 16. Mutar histapel l'knes lemercha samach l'shacharit shelo gazru ela samach lemincha shehu devar hamatzoi. The gezerah was only right before mincha. Okay, and therefore, what does this mean? This means that prior to Alot HaShachar, as we said, in source 17, the Mishnah Berurah says, Listaper in source 17 says in Mishnah Berurah, Dafkat samach l'shacharit ainu kodem sha'al amod ha'shachar. Right, this was prior to dawn. After dawn, this is also prohibited again because, strictly speaking, we discussed this at length in the past. The beginning time for Shachar is from Amud HaShachar. Although obviously we wait usually till it's Mishayakir. That was what we discussed previously, and therefore prior to Alot, that's when you have to. Things are okay, but from Alot to Shachar, from dawn, one would have to stop. I don't know too many barbers that are open that early, but I suppose COVID makeshift haircuts at home and that sort of thing. So then it would be relevant. But other chafatzim, other being busy with other matters, one should not really be doing prior to tefillah. Okay, what about, as you all pointed out, what if I've started davening? Because the Shulchan Aruch seemed to apply, it said you've got to do tefillat Yud Chet before the Amida, Shmona Esrei. But the Tzurba Hadeshem was actually asked, what if you start some of the davening? Is that enough? If you do Psukei Zimra or even Birkas HaShachar, is that not enough? He explains that it's not good enough in source 18. In contrast to Sheilas Shalom, greeting somebody, which you can do after Birkas HaShachar, this you can't do. It's not enough just to do Birkas HaShachar. Let's see the Jerusalem Deshin inside, source 18. She'ilah, he was asked, Hamashkim v'omer berachos v'shvachos ad baruch shamar chotel pleito v'asifracha v'chatzah shapik abid olav. Somebody who did brachas in the morning, and then was at home busy with other things, can they do that? Is that okay or not? And he answers no. Shuva, yira'eh, de lo shapir ka'avid. That's not a proper way to act. The Garcina Perek correct, because the Gemara says in the second parak of Brachos, Asur la'adam sheyaseh chapatzah kodem sheyitpalel, before davening. And we just say yitpalel. What's stam tefillah? It means Amida, right? Shmoneh Esrei. Ustam tefillah hamuzkeret b'Talmud utfilat Shmoneh Esrei. So the Gemara just says kodem sheyitpalel, and stam tefillah means Shmoneh Esrei. V'imken, if that's the case, says the Tzurba Shiur, lo ya'il masha amar brachos b'tishbachot kvar b'beit hakneset. It won't help that you've done brachos hashachar already at shul. Dat tefillat Shmoneh Esrei shenikba'u ikar la'avodah atamakom baruch hu. Because it was all instigated dafka, the main primary part of tefillah, which is avodat Hashem, which is the Amida. And in several matters, the Shmoneh Esrei is even more strict than Kriyat Shema. And therefore, in that regard, it's also more important in terms of doing certain things, heading to one's own affairs, right to tefillah. Okay. So the Tzurba Shiur is machmir and says it's got to be the full, at least the Amida, before attending to one's needs. But the Ramah says there are those that may call, but he says it's going to be machmir like the Tzurba Shiur. So in source 19, on page 32, yesh makilim la'achar she'amru mitzvah brachot. So the Ramah says there are those who are lenient after you said some brachot. Kodem she'amru brach she'amar. You've done brachos before brach she'amar, but he says it's good to be machmir like the Tzurba Shiur, v'tov lahachmir b'zeh, and therefore shouldn't be doing things really before Amida. Okay, and therefore people shouldn't be doing work at home. Okay, but they spoke about taking a haircut or washing, showering, etc. But what if it's part of your hachana still? That's what the Yalkut Yosef deals with here. What if you are one of those people that you need to shower before tefillah, or you need to leave the house, or whatever it is, and otherwise you're not going to be able to concentrate properly? Or I don't know, you're so desperate for that haircut, whatever, you're not going to concentrate on tefillah if you don't have it. Or shaving, for example. Like, what about shaving, right? Because I said he's staper, so maybe that might include shaving. You can't, you don't want to have stubble for tefillah, whatever it is, it's going to bother you. So what if dafka to do these actions is going to facilitate your tefillah? Would that be okay? So the Yalkut Yosef says yes. So let's see him inside in source 20. It says, "V'omnam, however, im harachitza ma'afsheret lo hitpalel b'chavana v'nikiyat." If by washing oneself it will allow him to have proper kavana and cleanliness of the body, achar she'eziyah harbeh b'layla for the mouth, spending a lot, whatever it is, yesh lahachshiv et harachitza kechelek me'achanot letfilah u'muteret. Then you can consider the washing as part and parcel of the preparation for tefillah, and it's allowed. But don't overdo it, he says. Achlo is funny, he said, he gives some parameters here. Achlo yarbel yirchotz atzmo b'sabon. Don't use too much soap, right? Ela yirchatz gufo ma'at, just an ample amount, a little amount, right? V'yaseh k'fi ha'hechreach, that which is necessary. Ragal hasir hazeyav ha'lichluch. Meaning this isn't the time to have a long luxury shower, right? Meaning if you're doing it because it's part of your hachana letefillah, then it's okay. And the Rav Zalman Auerbach went even further than Rav Yitzchak Yosef and said that you shouldn't use soap. That's what he said. They bring him here in the Halifa Shlomo. It says because that's the Hagdara, the definition of self-indulgence. And you just wanted to wash, so use water. Why are you using soap? Because this isn't hachana letefillah. That is interesting. Rav Vadia wasn't, or Rav Yitzchak Yosef, his son, wasn't so insistent on that. But look at this, source 21. This is Rosh Shlomo Zalman. It's not proper to wash with soap before davening. It might be allowed just with water. In the Harot they say, even though washing might be considered a need of tefillah, it's like the need of heaven for tefillah, which is permitted. Nonetheless, washing with soap, no. That's just self-indulgence, right? It's your own needs. Bilbad alone. So he says you can have a shower without soap. That's quite comical. So he's different to the Yaakov Yosef in that regard. The people of Cholek, Surah Vadia or Rav Yitzchak Yosef, his son, will see the Shevet Halevi is also going to be miracle. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I'm just saying that the preparation for tefillah. I mean, you can't just go in there in sword clothing. You can't go in there unkempt, and you wouldn't be the right frame of mind. So therefore, shouldn't you be able to?
I suppose it depends how smelly you are. That's really the answer as to whether he would concede. Look at the Shevet Halevi here, Rav Vazna here in source 22. He says maybe that's okay. He says in source 22 on top of page 33. Right, some sort of like chafifa, washing off, right? Chafifa is a term we know from Hilchot Nida, right? Meaning washing oneself, right? Also, just to be in the standing under the shower, it's just like a small shower, not a proper shower. Just popping into a quick shower is not really considered a concern of bittul tefillah, right? He's not concerned that you're going to come to miss tefillah in this regard. It's obvious that people who just abuse this and want to spend a long time in the shower prior to tefillah, that is not a good thing. So he allows soap, but he says not a long shower. Okay. It's funny that the little thing here. Let's see here. Oh, they only brought the halacha in English. Nebuch. This was 23. Yeah. Okay. So he says, Rabbi Melamed, he's more lenient. Maybe the reason is because in the Hebrew version, they don't have such leniencies for showering. Difference in culture between Israel and the diaspora. You see that a lot, though, by the way. You laugh about it, but you do see it like in his Pesakim about the 9 days. Like, you ask in Rabbi Chutz about washing in the 9 days. So they'll start, like most Rabbanim will say, now especially if nowadays we're all istinist, right? We're all under the category of, I don't have to translate istinist other than borderline OCD. And we're all, particular, and therefore cold showers or cool showers in the 9 days is okay. Bisman is there. Like not warm, but not freezing cold, but like that's okay. Tepid, right? That's the word they use. Ma'im poshrim, tepid water, just to take off the edge of the coldness. But you look at the Israeli poskim, Rav Melamed says, do less than you. Say that. It's okay. Like one less shower. So here they quote the English. I have to look up the Hebrew though. They only bring the English here. But he says prior to tefillah, there's no issue with taking showers. So he's makel in this regard. But it is a tzarech tefillah. To take a shower before davening, since washing one's whole body in 9 cups of water is also some sort of preparation towards tefillah, right? We know being in the shower for about 3 minutes is like tisha kabin yain, right? It's like 9 cups of water, which is like has some midrabanan value of almost like tefillah in a mikveh. Again, only midrabanan and only for certain respects, and therefore. Maybe it is a tzarech tefillah. Something you won't have a shower before for that regard. He quotes here, according to a number of poskim, it's also prohibited. Sorry?
That's what they talked about.
In COVID.
Like Sonnenbaum mentioned when doing a mikvah
Before Yom Kippur.
And things, have a shower for like X amount of minutes.
Yeah, shower for 3 minutes. It's fine. But obviously, it's not a halachic tefillah.
No, it was only
it's only, obviously, it won't work for Hilchot Nida or anything like that, or Ali ala Harabayit or anything like that. It's only good enough for I guess
emergencies.
No, but I'm saying for emergencies it's not a laughing tefillah. It's good enough for dinim which are not mikra tefillah, but just for midah chasidut, like tefillah before Yom Kippur and the like. Okay, fine. So he says then it's a tzarech tefillah in that regard. He brings here those who say that you shouldn't be washing with soap, but if somebody feels dirty, they need to wash, it's okay. And therefore, because this is okay, not like Rosh Shlomo Zalman. What about shaving? So it depends, especially Yaakov Yosef, based on what your habits are. Somebody who shaves, we saw his scalp hair was an issue for tefillah, right? To have a haircut. And the question is, Yiluach is shaving. Now we see this question of all the time, right? Because we saw it in the Shayla of whether the Gezerah of Tisporet, of haircuts in the Omer, the 3 weeks of blood being shaven. We discussed that, but also in this regard as well. So the Yaakov Yosef says in source 24, he's actually machmir and says it's best not to shave before tefillah. He says, one shouldn't shave electric shave before davening, before shacharit. It's like doing one's own personal needs. However, somebody who shaves every single day, that might not be the case. He says, Ulam, however, somebody who shaves every single morning when they wake up, before tefillah, they have what to rely on. The person shouldn't be moche, complain against, protest against such a person. But they do this every day, otherwise they get itchy, they have to shave in the morning. People please shave every day. Might be considered a hachana l'tefillah, which would be allowed. But he can't likra Elokecha Yisrael. It would come under that passage of Amos, which we've quoted numerous times, of hachana to look properly and stand and look presentable before Hashem. He still concedes it's best not to shave before tefillah. Once this month has arrived, but he says those who do have what to rely on. We are out of time. One more thing. He says tefillah in the mikveh. We won't read it inside to the time, but tefillah in the mikveh, he says, is allowed to everyone. Is a halakha tefillah here, which he brings here in source 25. But it says you shouldn't miss a minyan for it, right? Ein levatel tefillah b'tzibra l'tefillah mikveh. Okay. And then we'll continue next time. Yes, I'll take your question quickly.
Brushing teeth.
Yes, Jeff.
Brushing teeth.
Definitely tzarich tefillah. And you're not going to come next to me tomorrow if you don't. Okay. Say there. All right. Okay. All right. We'll end with that. So we'll go on tomorrow. Check out.
Sure.
No, this is